All right.
Tshuva Samuchlot. We're on Masechta Yoma DAf Pei Vav Amud Beis, and we're going to learn Pei Zayin 87 today. Tshuva Samuchlotin Ma'akevas Aparonus. The tshuva of Rishoyim will prevent punishment of the world. Even though there's already been a decree that they should be punished. Shalvas Rishoyim Soifet HaKolah. Leaving Rishoyim in peace, not punishing them in this world, is in the end bad for them because they won't get their reward in Olam Haba. Varashus Mekaber says, Bala, people involved in the government will bury them. Arum Nichtas Lava Arum Yetzim Imena. They'll go in naked, they'll come out naked. Alavai should tell Yitzi Kabiyah. Alavai that they should be innocent going out like they were innocent going in. Rav Kiavid Navik Lemeidin Dina Amrachi. Rav, when he served as a judge, it's very dangerous to serve as a judge because you have people's lives in your hands that could lead to your own misa. It's unafshe lektolonafik. I always view myself as going out to death. Utzvi beisa lesser uovid. And I'm not bringing in any income for my house. V'reikin lebeso, so I don't bring anything in. L'vai shetei bia kitzia. But alavai should go in my coming should be as good as my leaving, meaning without chet, without avera. Rava would say, I always view myself as if my life is on the line. The work of my house is not being done. I don't bring anything in. I would say the same thing, that I should come to court clean, I should leave clean. Yeah, when he would see a lot of people following him because giving him kavod, Omer im yalel shamayim sio v'rosha la'avi yagir kiglol, and that's a choved rav yom rayo. He should always remind himself of the pasuk in Iyov that if a person rises to a great height, in the end it could lead to a great fall. So he tried to keep himself grounded. Rav Zutra kiyavim ekatfilei b'shabta derigla. They would carry Rav Zutra on their shoulders on the Shabbos of Yontif because he would give a public drasha. He would say to himself, you don't wear a crown from generation to generation. Again, he kept himself grounded. It's not good that Rishoyim get covered in this world. For example, Achav, the evil king, they showed him a nice face. And people didn't learn, and not only that, he lost it because he got treated well in this world. He lost his chelik in Olam Haba. So it's better if the Rishoyim have it bad in this world because maybe they'll have share in Olam Haba. Vice versa for the tzaddikim. It's good for tzaddikim that everything perfect doesn't happen to them. That way they get Olam Haba. For example, they didn't forgive Moshe. When he struck the rock instead of speaking the rock, it was held against him. If you would have had faith in me, you wouldn't have left this world. But on the other hand, it provides him with Olam Haba. Tzaddikim don't just merit for themselves, they merit for their children, grandchildren until the end of time. The other sons of Aaron also really should have been burnt up like Nadav Avihu. They were left over. That means they were royally sorry, says Rashi. The schus of Aaron protected them. And vice versa. Rishoyim not just are guilty for themselves, they mechayiv their children, grandchildren until the end of time. Where do we see this? A lot of the grandchildren of Canaan were great in Torah that they could have gotten smicha. Ketevi Abdu Shabbat Gamliel. Ela Shechayvas Avian Garmalem, he would be an Eved. He could not become a Jew. If somebody gives schus to the public, ein chet ba'al yado, so he will not cause other people to sin. If he causes other people to sin, kimad ein maspikim b'yado laso tshuva. Such a person will not be able to do tshuva. My time up. If a person is mezakeh the public, he doesn't cause people to chet my time. Not because if he did chatoim, he would be in Gehenim and his talmidim would be in Gan Eden. Shenemar ki lo of nafshi l'shaol. L'shaol refers to the Gehenim. Lo titein chasid choliros shachas. Whoever is choyte umachti, like Yeravim ben Nevat, they don't let him do tshuva. Shlo yehu began Eden, because if they let him do tshuva, he will be in Gan Eden. His talmidim who followed his teaching and were choytoim, talmidim began him shenemar adam ashuk bedam nafesh ad bor yonus ayit mechuvo. Haomer echte va'ashuv echte va'ashuv. Somebody said, I'm going to sit and do tshuva. We say that the tshuva doesn't work. Why would he say it twice? Because once a person does an avera, he repeats it because it becomes commonplace for him. Frank the Gemara hutralo, but it doesn't become permitted. Hutralo sakadayich elanasas loketer. He views it like it's permitted because he doesn't stay away from it. Similarly, if he says, Echtev Yom Kippur mechaper, I'm going to sin and I'll rely on Yom Kippur to atone for me.
I don't know what happened. It froze, so I had to sign in again.
Okay. Maybe our mission is not like Rabbi. The Tanya Rabbi Oimer, I'll call Avera Shabbator Ben Asar Tshuva Ben Lo Asar Tshuva Yom Kippur Mechaper. Rabbi said that the power of Yom Kippur is that he can atone no matter what. So maybe our Mishnah that says I'm going to sin and Yom Kippur Mechaper, and we say that doesn't work. Maybe that's not like Rabbi. Afilu Tema Rabbi Agav Shaini means Rabbi also holds that if he's going to rely on Yom Kippur to sin, that Yom Kippur for him will not atone for him. Then Aver Shebein Adam are atoned by Yom Kippur, but Averos Bein Adam Chaver, you need to ask forgiveness. Ramile Rav Yosef Bar Chavel Rababo Aver Shebein Adam Chaver Ein Yom Kippur Mechaper. Is that true that man to man Averos Yom Kippur's doesn't atone? Vaksiv Im Yechte Ish Li Ish Ufilo Lo Elohim. That if a person sins against a person, daven to Hashem, and he will atone for you. So the Gemara says, Man Elohim Dayana. Sometimes the word Elohim refers to a judge. It means you got to go apply to a judge, and a judge will rule. So if we're saying Elohim means a judge, Yachi Eim Seifa. V'im Lashem Yechta Ish Mi Yispalalo. But if a person sins to Hashem, who's going to daven for him? He has to daven for himself. So what? That also doesn't mean Hashem. So Hachi Kamar Ish Yachta Ish Li Ish Ufilalo Elohim Yimchalo. If a person sins to another person, he needs atonement from a judge. V'im Hashem Yachta Ish means Palabado. Who will daven for a person who sins against Hashem? Tshuva Umaisim Toivim. His righteous acts and tshuva. If a person insults a friend, so he has to ask forgiveness. Shenemar, b'ni, im aravta l'reyecha tokata lazar kapecha, nokashti b'imre picha. Ase zos efo b'ni v'nitzal kivat b'knaf reyecha, lech isra peis urahav reyecha. Meaning, im mamon yesh b'yadcha, hater lo pisas yad. If you owe money, pay him. V'im lav, harbe alav reyim. And if not, send a lot of people apologizing for you. You have to stand with 3 rows of 3 people as a delegation. Shenemar Yashor al Anoshim Vayomer Chatosi V'Yashor Evesi V'Lo Shaveli. That even 2 times it didn't work, so you need 3. You have to ask 3 times, but no more. Shenemar Ana Sana Ve'ata Sana. Now, if the person that you hurt in mace, you have to maybe asar bnei adam. You bring 10 people, umamidin al cover, and you have to stand on his grave. V'omer chatasi la'Hashem Elohei Yisrael. I sinned to Hashem ulifloni, to this person shechavalta bo, and I injured him. Rav Yirmiyah v'lei milsa Rav Avo badei. Rav Yirmiyah insulted Rav Avo. Also leisav adoshet Rav Avo. He sat on the stoop of Rav Ava's house. The housekeeper of Rav Yirmiyah threw out the dirty water and threw it on his head. That's they made him like a garbage dump. It's what it's the Posuk in Tehillim. And this is part of his tshuva. Shomer Rav Abba v'nafik la'apeh. Rav Abba heard, went out to greet him. Omerle hashta tzrichna l'meifik adaitich. Now I have to ask forgiveness from you because I embarrassed you because my maid threw out the water on his head. Rab Zera kiavale milsa bahadi inish. When Rab Zera had to ask forgiveness, havel chalif atani l'kamei u'mamsilei. He would stand in front of the guy's house back and forth in order to run into him so he can apologize. Rav had some kind of dispute with a butcher, and the butcher had to apologize to Rav. The butcher didn't show up. Rav said, Erev Yom Kippur, I'm going to go present myself to him. I will make up with it. So Ravuna asked Rav, where are you going? To settle up with the butcher. Don't get yourself involved. You're a great person. Something bad is going to happen. That guy's going to die. But he ended up visiting. The butcher was chopping a skull with his butcher knife. He lifted up his eyes to see who was there. And he saw it was Rav, and Rav's name was Abba. I have nothing to do with you. But as he was chopping the skull, a bone flew out of the skull, and it embedded himself in his neck, killed him, to fulfill the prophecy of Ravuna. Rav have a pasuk siddur kamei the Rebbe. Rav was reading psukim in front of Rebbe, because Rav had traveled from Bavel to Tveria, where Rebbe lived, and was learning. Eventually, Rav went back to Bavel to become the Rosh Hashiva, but now he was learning with Rebbe. Ayal Asa Rav Chia. Rav Chia was also in Eretz Yisrael. Rav Chia was the main Talmud of Rebbe who wrote the Baraises, right? Mishnah was written by Rebbe, and any Tanaitic piece of literature that did not get included in the Mishnahs, Rav Chia wrote as the Baraises and the Toseftas. Rav Chia and Rabbi Shaya. So we see Rav Chia was he would be there as well, because he was in the generation after Rebbe. So Rav saw Rav Chia come in. So als covered Rav Chia, he started reading the psukim again. Ayel Bar Kapora came in. Again, Rav started again. Us Reb Shimon Berebi, Reb Shimon, the son of Rebbe, also came in. Again, he started again. Us Rav China Bar Papa Amar, Kula Aina Adav Ezel. What am I going to go back and read again? Lo Hada, he didn't go back. Ikpid Rav Chanina, but Rav Chanina was insulted. Azal Rav Lagabe placed Ramala Yom Kippuri. Rav went to visit Rav Chanina for 13 Erev Yom Kippurs to ask forgiveness. Loi Fayis. Rav Chanina didn't forgive him. How could he not forgive him? If the guy asks you 3 times, you're supposed to forgive him. So Rav Shiny. Rav was a special case. So Rav Chanina, what was the why did Rav Chanina do it? If a person forgives easily, Hashem also forgives the person. And the source of this is Rabbi Chanina Chalma Chazule Rav Zakfu Bedikla. Rav Chanina had a dream that he saw Rav climbing or hanging on a palm tree. Gemiri to call the Zikru Bedikla Reishava. The simon of the Sigmund Freud, the interpretation of dreams were such that if somebody had a dream that they were hanging on a palm tree, it was a simon that you would be the Rosh Hashiva. Omer Shmamina Boila Mevid Rishusa. So it must be that he's going to be made into the head. So the law of Fai is, I'm not going to forgive him. He'll go, because I'm not forgiving him, he went back to Bavel, and in Bavel he became the Rosh Hashiva, because if he would have been the Rishonim explained, Rav Chanina was the Rosh Hashiva in Eretz Yisrael. And if he would have forgiven him, so Rav then would have been elevated to Rosh Hashiva, but that means the king is dead, long live the king. Meaning, 2 people can't have the kingship at the same time. It means Rav Chanina would have had to die or leave. So Rav Chanina was smart. He didn't forgive him, so Rav would go back to Bavel. You have to say vidui as Erev Yom Kippur as night falls, but before Yom Kippur. Not only that, you should say vidui before you eat. That's why we daven mincha 3:00 before our Suda Mafseka is based on this Gemara. Shamati Tarf Daita B'Suda, because you'll choke in the Suda, or here the language is you become a Meshigan. You should do another vidui. Maybe something happened bad during the Suda. Arvis, Kol Nidre, night, Ma'ariv, you make vidui. Yisvade Shachris. You should do vidui again, Shachris. Shachris Yisvade B'Musaf. B'Musaf Yisvade B'Mincha. B'Mincha Yisvade B'Ne'ilah. We make vidui each time we daven. Now, Heichan Oinru, when do we say vidui? Yochid says it Achar Tfiloso, right? We do it after we finish Hamavorach Asamu Yisrael Bashalom, before we say Elokai Netzor and take 3 steps back. Shliach Tzibur Omroi Be'emtza. But the vidui, public vidui, on these tefillah, we do it during Shemona Esrei. And then we close Hamavir Ashmosein B'chol Shana V'Shana, Mekadosh Shamo Yisrael, right? We make the final brach of Musaf, but vidui is done within Shemona Esrei. Now, what is the vidui? My Omar Rav Ata Yodea Razei Olam, that tefillah. Ushmol Omar Mimamake Halei. The Levi Omar Uvesoyroscha Kosuv Leimor. And Rav Yechon Omar Riboy No Ilamim. By the way, these are all the extra tefillahs that are added in the Ilah. Rabbi Yehuda Omar Ki Avonosenu Rabu Melim Nois. V'Chatusenu Atzmo Mispor. Our sins are too big to count. Rav Amnuna Omar Elokai Ad Shelo Notzarti Eni Chadai. Until I was created, I wasn't worthy. Even though I'm created, it's if I'm not created. Offer ani b'chai, I'm dust in my life. Certainly in my death. In front of you, I'm like a vessel full of embarrassment and regret. I daven in front of you that I should not sin anymore. That which I sinned, you should erase, but not through suffering. Rava would say this every day. Would Rav Hamnuna Zuta be Yom Kippur? But this is Rav Hamnuna would say Yom Kippur. Amar Mar Zuta lo yamar elad lo yamar aval anachnu chatanu. All of this is he hadn't said yet aval anachnu chatanu, which leads into the Ashanu. Aval Omar aval anachnu chatanu suloi tzarich. The three words aval anachnu chatanu is a minimum that fulfills the vidui. Domer baram dudi have a kamina Shmuel used to daven in front of Shmuel. Have a Yosef v'chamata shlicha d'tzibura. He would stand next to the shliach tzibur v'omer aval anachnu chatanu. Come, make him. That's when Shmuel would start up and start doing vidui. Omar shmamina ikar vidui hayu. So he understood from this act of Shmuel that this is the ikar vidui. It's not awesome. B'shloisha prokim b'shana kohanim noisim miskapeya. 3 times the year kohanim duchen. Arba pamim bayom 4 times. B'shachris, b'musaf, b'mincha, v'nila sha'arim. And what are the 3 days that we have these 4 tefillas, including Nila? Shlosha prakim betanios, tanis tzibur, b'mamados, when the Bnei Yisrael were doing mamados near the base of Mikdash. U'yom HaKippurim. My Nilas Hashem, what defines Ne'ilas Sha'arim? Rav Amar Tzlusa Yisei Rasa, a separate tefillah. U'shmol Amar Ma'anu Mechayinu, just an addition, these additional psukim. So Meisvi, we ask a kasha on Shmuel. Or Yom HaKippur Mispal Shevu Mizvada. Yom Kol Nidre night, we daven 7 brachas medik vidui. B'shachros Mispal Shevu Mizvada. B'musa Mispal Shevu Mizvada. B'mincha Mispal Shevu Mizvada. B'ne'ilah Mispal Shevu Mizvada. Mashma that Ne'ilah is a full-fledged tefillah. So the word says Tanoi, it's machlokes Tanoi, the Tanya. Yom HaKippurim Chashecha Mispal Shevu Mizvada. By Ma'ariv, we daven, we do vidui v'choisem b'vidui. Di Rab Meir. V'chachamim amar mispal sheva v'imrat zalachtom b'vidui choisem. So we see very clearly both hold that it's a tefillah. Tiyufta d'shmuel tiyufta. Ula barav nachas kamei de Rava. Ula davened as a chazan in front of Rava Pasach ba'ata b'chartanu. V'sim b'manu mechayenu v'shabchen, he praised it. Ravuna Brei Rav Nasan Rav Yachid Oimra Achar Tfilaso. The Yachid says Ne'ilah after his regular tefillah. Amar Rav Tfilas Ne'ilah Poteres Eshel Arvis. If you say Ne'ilah, you don't have to say Ma'ariv Yom Kippur night. Moitzi Yom Kippur. Rav L'tamei Domer Tzulsi Yasei Rossi, because it's a regular tefillah. V'kiven de Tzalo Le'esu Lo Tzarech. Frank the Gemara, Mi Amar Rav Achi, did Rav really say you don't have to say Ma'ariv? Amar Rav. Halacha Kediv Rav Tfilas Arvis Rishus. So it's not even a chiyuv. So what do you mean it fulfills it? So the Gemara answers with divrei omer chayva ka'omar. According to the one who says Arvis, according to the Rambam, Bnei Yisrael accepted Ma'ariv as a chayva. Meikar adin, it's not like the other tefillas. It's really just a rishus. It's not a chiyuv gomer. Meisvei or Yom HaKippur mispal sheva mizvada, Shachar sheva mizvada, Musar sheva mizvada, B'ne'ilah mispal sheva mizvada. Arvis mispal sheva me'ein shmona esrei, regular Ma'ariv. You notice here it didn't say mincha. Rav Chanina ben Gamliel mishum avois mispal shmona esrei shleimos. We'll see what this machlokas is tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to learn at 5 o'clock because I have surgery in the morning. Mirz Hashem, it's a small blot. We'll finish the blot, and Motzei Shabbos we'll learn at 9:30, God willing.
5 p.m.
Does anybody want to learn? Does anybody want to learn Daf Yomi face to face on Shabbos at Shul, or we still want to do Zoom?
Zoom.
I'm okay face to face. You could run if you want, but I'm one vote. If you want, Rabbi Krause is out of town, so you could probably just make it, 40 minutes before Mincha. Mincha is probably 7:30, so 6:45 if you want it.
But we have to get a consensus. Think about it. We'll talk about it tomorrow at 5. Okay.
Okay. Good night.
Good night.
All right.